for the culture. That's right, that's for the culture.
I said indict, convict, send that killer cop to jail. The whole damn system is guilty, yeah. I said indict.
The soundtrack of the 60s is still within me. My heartbeat sound like feet marching. Call it lawless, but it don't offend me. Cause y'all rule just more tools to set against me. Feel me? Hey, Piggy, it's not Kermit. I'm never green enough to love you, but a leapfrog over every hurdle that you put in front me. And you can't trick me with your money. I'm forever underground on these tracks like Tubman. Who with me? I'm just a no good cotton picking. Where is Eli Whitney? Motherfucker shoulda never let me learn history. I set fire to this until it burned crispy.
Peace, y'all. Welcome to another episode of For the Culture, the newest voice of Black liberation. If you don't know, I'm your host, King Quent, here again with my brother and comrade Lord Serious, doing it for the people, so the people can do it for themselves. Like always, we're going to start out by giving a shout out to our sponsors, the Emoji Nation and Talk of the Streetz Entertainment, for giving us this soapbox to stand on and speak these truths. Y'all know we want y'all to keep in contact, so hit us up, emojinationradio@gmail.com. That's UMOJANATION radio@gmail.com, and subject line for the culture. And let us know what y'all think, any of y'all opinions, feedback, subjects, we open to everything. Now y'all know it's Black History Month, and so I hope that everybody out there reflecting on their journeys as a people, our accomplishments, our strides, and our stories. I'm hoping y'all carrying this energy forward, because Black History is not just for these 28 days in February, it's a part of every day. If you're a Black man, woman, or child, everything you're doing is Black History. I am because we are, and because we are, I am. We are all a part of this struggle. It affects everybody. This is why our unity is so important. When the police kill us, they don't care if they're killing Muslims or Christians. They don't care if they're from Richmond or Virginia Beach. They don't care about your light skin or dark skin, if you're a military veteran or a business owner, if you voted Democrat or Republican. Racism doesn't care. White supremacy doesn't care any more than to use these ideas to keep us divided. So I just want y'all to keep that in mind as we out here moving this month. There shouldn't be any superficial divisions amongst us. We don't got that type of time on our hands. All of these things are part of the illusion that's keeping us from reaching our full potential as a people. And we need to accept this. This month is the best time to do it. So let's not really buy into the idea that it's all about remembering facts or names of people who have done great things. Let's bring it back to self. Ask yourself, what is your Black history? What is your family history? What is your personal history? And how has all of these things brought you to where you are now? What can you learn from them? And how can you use that knowledge of the past to create your future? And even what future are you trying to create? I know a lot of us don't like to think about all of the pain that our ancestors suffered. I've talked to a lot of people who feel like slavery doesn't matter anymore, or Jim Crow is over, and so what's important is for us to focus on right now. But what they're missing is the past does affect the present, and the present is what we use to create the future. It's all cause and effect. See, if you want to know how to solve any problem and prevent it from reoccurring, then you kind of know what caused that problem in the first place. And then to even know if the problem was really solved, you have to know how things worked before the problem began. See, being locked up, I know some people who've been gone since they were 16 or 17 years old, doing 20 or more years, who can't even really remember what life was like before being locked up. They never had the experience of being an adult outside of prison. And so their vision and aims and goals for life are so limited and so small. But I understand, because in a way I feel like all of us are like this. None of us really know what it's like to live as a free people, to live in a nation that is really yours, to not feel oppressed, to not be an other, to feel the weight that comes with being Black in America. And so our vision of freedom has been distorted. Our whole lives we've been in prison, in hoods and ghettos, in schools that tell us lies, in prisons, in debt, stress, anxiety, worry, and fear, in prison through doubt, self-hate, and ignorance. We have never known what true freedom means. And so when we think of it, we just think of it as freedom under the law, freedom to use the same facilities and social institutions, which is cool, but there is so much more to it. But we don't know that. because we lost our connection to our past. We forgotten our history. We forgot what real liberty means. We forgot what it's like to live according to your own understanding of life, your own system of values, of morality, economics, sex, politics, and whatever else you want to create. We no longer feel like a captive people fighting for our liberty. It's like we've become a discriminated people fighting for equality. But in this world, equality can't be given. It must be proven. It must be shown. And not just through moralistic or philosophical sentiments, but through self-sufficiency, self-help, organization, scientific development, through knowledge of self and of God. So to me, Marcus Garvey said it best. Power is the only argument that satisfies man. And real power comes from within. The power is the truth. And the truth is that we have become our only obstacles to progress, or our main obstacles to progress. Because if anybody else could give us the power to set us free, then they have the power to slave us again. And this is one of the reasons why knowledge of our history is so important, and why we have to teach it to our children, to not only make them feel proud of where they come from, but so that we remain connected to this struggle. People with no sense of historical continuity lose their culture and eventually lose themselves. And once self is lost, you will forever remain under the rule of somebody else until this is corrected, until knowledge of self is obtained. Too many of us have seen and forgotten that we are the descendants of great empires and kingdoms. Kingdoms like Mali, Songhai, the Moorish Kingdom, Nation of Angola, and so many others who were enslaved and captured, but who fought, died, and bled trying to get freedom. And not just freedom from the plantation, but true freedom to live as they desire, to determine for themselves how they would govern themselves, how they would engage in life, to have a true freedom as a sovereign people. See, we've forgotten that the goal was never to become equal to our enslavers or move into the big house with master. That was a house nigga mentality. The goal has always been and should always be liberty, independence, sovereignty. All of those that have come before us have played their part in paving that road to true freedom. So let's not just stop here and get comfortable at a rest station when there's so many more miles to go. Let's not forget where we came from was something so much greater than this plantation, and where we are going is so much better than all of this. I know I just said a lot, man. So we're going to take a break, play some tunes, and let you digest some of that. When we come back, we're going to have Lord Serious and his thoughts on Noble Drew Ali and the more Timbers of America. And this is For the Culture, live on Top of the Streetz Entertainment. Be right back.
I was looking out the window, and it was raining. And I just thought about all the stuff going on in the world. And then I looked to the sky and wondered, is somebody crying for us? I come from a world you don't see until we get killed by police. So fuck the police, cause I got some dogs from the streets that these crackers won't let off that leash until they released. Pray that your cell full of meats, a hygiene and noodles and sweets. If that bring you ease, or find you some books you can read to escape from this place and be free. I run with some G's, gangsters and gods, I'm somewhere in between. Rodney and Martin, one both of them kings. So even after you've been beaten, you still got a dream. Haters try to intervene, but that comes from they inner things. What you give, what you receive. In silence I grieve, sending my tears to the heavens, and they send them back down to me when it rains. When it rains. When it rains. When it rains. Playing like cousins when we was fifth graders. Couple years later, all I saw was danger. Start chasing paper and everything changes. We used to be close, now we fighting like strangers. Corrupted by hatred, so full of anger. When we caught them cases, was only teenagers. Nobody forgave us. Look what they gave us, man, how could you blame us? They meant to enslave us. Shout out my neighbors that went off to college. My niggas, you made it, let's celebrate it. But we can't forget about the brothers that couldn't escape it. They want us to be separated. Call you my brothers because we related. Connected through struggle. We link cause they change us. Don't care if you black or Hispanic or Asian. They killing our babies to build up their nation. They wanna train us to go against nature. Don't care how you mask it, I see what I'm facing. In face of the truth, you gon' run, no embrace it. You take away something, you gotta replace it. They took away our land, took away our language, and then gave us Nathan, the tricks of a traitor. I heard my ancestors crying and begging me change it, and see they teardrops on the pavement when it rains. 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 I feel like I'm drowning inside. I'm drinking, I'm trying to escape from the pain that I hide. Man ain't supposed to cry, so I'ma cover my eyes. Why must I live in disguise? Soon as I think you're not looking, I dry my facade. Try to hold back with my tears, now become ties. It's been too long, nature's been feeding me lies. Look how we live, you see the world is unsafe. Children can't go out and play. Every hood got them ahead of that feel out of place. That's why that gun on his waist, he wanna run, that's why we call it the trap. Cause he can never escape, streets ain't the same, and it's been hurting my eyes. We just been dying away.
Okay, thanks for the introduction, son of man. As you just heard, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lord Serious, and I greet you in peace. To all the community organizers making our neighborhood safe for kids to play. To all the teachers of truth seeking to raise our national consciousness. To all of the vanguards defending black bodies from white oppression. When they ask why we do what we do and who we do it for, we need to only reply for the culture. February is Black History Month, and it showcases the history of black nationalism. For the culture is paying homage to four movements that played pivotal roles in awakening the consciousness of blacks living in America during the 20th and 21st century. And we will elaborate on how these movements made important contributions in the unification of the black race by teaching us to view ourselves as a nation within a broader U.S. nation. Last week, we informed you about the Universal Negro Improvement Association and its founder, Marcus Garvey. Some of you had never heard about Marcus Garvey and the UNIA until listening to our podcast. Do not feel too embarrassed if you were one of those people, because I didn't learn about most of these movements myself until I was incarcerated. So I'm just doing my part to share this knowledge with you. Each one teach one according to their knowledge. This week's discussion will highlight the Moorish Science Temple of America and its illustrious founder, Noble Ali. I have a connection to this organization personally. I actually was a member of this movement for a number of years, and I even rose through its ranks and served a few tenures as the acting Grand Sheik at a number of institutions within Virginia's Department of Corrections. So I will be sharing some of my own first-hand knowledge with you about this organization's importance. I will also teach you some little-known facts about the historical significance of the MST of A and its founder, Noble Ali. Okay, now the Moorish Science Temple of America was founded in Newark, New Jersey in the year 1913. It began as a civic organization which was initially called the Canaanite Temple. The founder was a man born in the state of North Carolina in 1886 under the name of Timothy Drew. At the age of 16, Timothy Drew left home and began traveling abroad. It is said that he made his way to the east, where he studied and met dignitaries and religious scholars of Islam. While in the east, Timothy Drew qualified himself to become an Islamic sheikh. And upon making his pilgrimage to Mecca, he met the founder of Saudi Arabia, the Sultan Abdul Aziz Ibn Saud. This Sultan, Ibn Saud, authorized Noble Ali to teach Islam in America. Upon his return back to the United States, government officials detained him and questioned him about his whereabouts and what he had brought back with him. Apparently, they wanted to confiscate the books they suspected he was carrying. But according to Noble Ali, he didn't have any books on his person because he had retained all of the knowledge to his memory. I'm sharing this story with you to inform you that the knowledge that this man brought to us was something that this government wanted to keep concealed. Noble Ali was the first person in America to say that Islam was a black man's religion. And as his teachings began to spread and temples sprung up in different major cities in the U.S., as his membership grew, Noble Drew Ali eventually incorporated his organization under the status of a religious organization, and he changed his name to the Moorish Science Temple of America. During the 1920s, the MSTFA's main temple was located in Chicago, Illinois. Noble Drew Ali structured the Moorish Science Temple of America so that it will operate as a government within a government. The MSTFA requires its membership to proclaim their nationality and divine creed. These two concepts are very important to the development of national consciousness. So you're dealing with the concept of self-group identity, and you're dealing with a philosophy that modifies the behavior of that group. Alright, okay, so the Moorish Science Temple of America teaches its adherents that their nationality is Moorish American. They are descendants of the Moors who are born in America. The Moorish Empire reigned over Africa and Europe for over 800 years, and its collapse in the 1600s is what sent Europe into the Dark Ages. The Moors were very industrious people, and they were the torchbearers of civilization for many years. After the fall of the Egyptian/Nubian Empire, the Moorish Empire was one of the successors in a long line of black civilizations, whose people took on the responsibility of preserving knowledge for future generations. The Moorish Empire was an Islamic culture, and the form of Islam practiced by these black people embraced and encouraged scientific discovery and the pursuit of knowledge. The Moors were also known as master navigators of the sea. Therefore, the Moorish Science Temple of America's claim that black people had been made into Negroes and reduced to 3/5 of a human being when they were stripped of their nationality and divine creed during slavery held merit. The United States Constitution did not recognize black people as being a member of the human family. And according to the teachers of the Moorish Science Temple of America, before anyone could be recognized by the U.S. government, they must possess these 5 qualities. The 3/5 that no one could be deprived of are your body, your soul, and your spirit. But America's Negro had no knowledge of himself. He knew nothing of his heritage or his people's culture prior to his ancestors being kidnapped and brought to the shores of North America against their will. The only name he knew to call his people was the name given to them by their enslavers. The only God he knew to worship was the God of his enslavement. So for these reasons, the Negro was legally recognized as only 3/5 of a man in America. But the Moorish Science Temple of America's mission was to uplift fallen humanity by restoring black people back to their rightful place as a noble and industrious people. By proclaiming your nationality as a Moorish American, you will be relinking yourself to the branch of family that derives from the tree of the Moors. By accepting Islam as your divine creed, you will be giving Christianity and the church back to the Europeans because it was founded by their forefathers for their people's earthly salvation. And you will be returning back to the way of life practiced by your ancestors in West Africa before our people were enslaved. The MSTFA says that every people must worship under their own vine and fig tree, meaning we disrespect ourselves, we disrespect our heritage, and we take for granted the wisdom of our ancestors. But we take on customs and traditions of others and forsake the long-standing principles that have ensured our own people's genetic survival for over millions of years. Black people in America had lost their way, and instead of just pointing us in the direction we needed to go, Noble Drew Ali built an organization so that he could take us and guide us by the hand, so that we could carry these teachings into the new millennium, so that his future generation of Moors could move the old Moors out of the way and finally lead blacks living in America to true freedom. Now, everything I told you so far could be researched in history books written by Ivan Van Sertima, Golden Age of the Moors, and J.A. Rogers' book, World's Greatest Men of Color. More specific information pertaining to the history of the MSTFA and Noble Drew Ali can be found in the Moorish Literature Pamphlet, the Moorish Questionnaire Pamphlet, the Oral Statements Pamphlet, and within the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. These are my references, and I cite these sources as my authority. I first wanted to present the facts to you, unbiased and objective, about this organization to allow you to reach your own conclusions about the MSTFA and its founder, Noble Drew Ali. If my words do nothing more than to make you curious enough to perform your own independent research on this movement, then I will have succeeded in opening new eyes to an important movement that has contributed to black history. We will take a quick break to play some conscious hip-hop. So stay tuned.
One day we gon' find a way. Someday we gon' find a way. Dream on. Yeah. My niggas look at where we at and pay attention. Look at what you lack. Know this world harder for you when your skin black. Freedom ain't free, and that's an actual fact. White supremacy is real. The system has infected how you think and what you feel. Hope you heed the message, cause the devil at your heel, trying to steal every blessing. Know that make you sick while you keep taking pills that don't ever really heal. See the world starving, I'm just trying to make a meal. Feel like I owe a debt, seen whole stack of bills. When they buried the prince, made an underground king, never seen trill. The wealth of Africa made Whitey rich when he hacked it up. Don't believe me, Google back it up. That little money we see is just a fraction of everything snatched from us. Can't even add it up. Mansa Musa was the richest man in history, and he was a black man from the west coast of Africa, the kingdom of Mali. You don't believe me, you can look it up for yourself. Would you live for them people you would die for? When they caught Pac, it was 5 through the side door. Fast forward, now it's Nipsey at the store. Death by your own kind, cause the wise will disguise war. If you don't think the ghetto was an eyesore, then you ain't never seen this shit that I saw. I saw murder for a key, saw locked doors. When they up, we down like a seesaw. This oppression is pressing me every second. They preaching non-violence, my mind is a weapon. Trying to narrow my scope, had me aiming for Giuseppe's. Used to have that target, then I started asking questions. Like what is God? What is my essence? If this is hell, then what is heaven? Who the real enemy and where my Mac 11? Start talking like that, they depart from your presence. I'm just trying to get some leverage, but first I gotta get my shit together. Battle the effects of what I've been subjected to, cause as kids we grew off the food they fed us. Food for thought, bunch of lies we ingested. Oh, Columbus didn't know where he was headed. That's misdirection, miseducation. When given to a king, turn his prince to a peasant. Pay attention, life's but a lesson. If you ain't fighting against it, then I guess that you accept it. Talking like a gangster, really you a coward. In the face of real power, you leave them unprotected. All praise to my ancestors. Think about them when I start second guessing. And now I'm calling out my brethren to pick up weapons and come help us.
Welcome back. You're listening to For the Culture. This is the hottest podcast and internet radio station, bringing you the hottest underground artists and the realest commentary and opinion radio. If you want to receive a political education in the science of black liberation, then you can receive a tuition-free course at our university just by tuning in and listening to us every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On For the Culture, we don't just give you the truth. We're giving you the gospel according to Lord Serious and the gospel according to King Quent. Okay, now before the break, I was providing you with the historical analysis on the moral science of America and its founder, Noble Drew Ali. And what amazes me about this man and the organization he started was how young Noble Drew Ali was when he filed this articles of incorporation. Noble Drew Ali was only 27 years old when he made that move. So for him to be wise enough to bring his organization under the protection of the First Amendment by making it a religious organization shows that this man was wise beyond his years. Now what I'm about to say is strictly my opinion on this matter. I'm not speaking as a representative of the MSTFA at all. I speak for myself when I say this. But what I'm about to say is the truth. And the truth is that Noble Drew Ali was a mastermind. This man had an understanding of the law, both domestic law and international law, that will put Rudy Giuliani to shame. It is my opinion that Noble Drew Ali wanted to use the U.S. law to bring black people under the constitutional fold so that the white race could no longer use the law to abuse us. What I mean by that is, if you are alien in a foreign land and you cannot provide the authorities with any identification to inform them of who you are or where you come from, you will be detained and most likely trapped within the system until you're kicked out of that country. This is the state black people in America were in before Noble Drew Ali came and brought us a nationality and divine creed. We were a shadow property, free from the plantations but enslaved to death as non-citizens, with no rights that the white man was bound to respect. This is the opinion made by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1956 in the Dred Scott versus Sanford case. Now, some of you smart Negroes might say, well, the 14th Amendment, which was passed in 1865, remedied that. But Chief Justice Haynes stated in his opinion of the court in the Dred Scott decision that the United States Constitution did not give Congress the authority to make citizens out of blacks who were descendants of African slaves. And we must remember that it is the duty of the Supreme Court to interpret the law, and decide what is and what is not constitutional. This is why a ruling made by the Supreme Court is considered to be the supreme law of the land. The only thing that can overturn or reverse a Supreme Court decision is another Supreme Court decision. So as it concerns the issue of whether or not Congress has the authority to make the descendants of slave citizens, the decision reached by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1956 has never been overturned. This is all facts. You can ask any of the top civil rights attorneys, Michelle Alexander or Benjamin Crump, and if they're being honest, they both will confirm that what I'm saying is true. I know Mrs. Alexander has no problem speaking the truth about this particular situation because she has exposed some of these same facts in her book, The New Jim Crow. But unlike these civil rights attorneys, Noble Drew Ali was not relying on the 14th Amendment to bring black people into the constitutional fold. Instead, he brought us the missing 2/5 that had been stripped from us during slavery. By providing us with a legitimate nationality and a divine creed, the descendants of African slaves were restored back to personhood and were now lawfully entitled to all the rights, privileges, and benefits that the U.S. Constitution guarantees to all citizens. However, Noble Drew Ali was not solely relying on the benevolence and friendship of the white race. This is why his move to incorporate the MSCFA as a religious organization was so important. We have to remember the purpose for which the Pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock. These people were fleeing religious persecution in Europe, and they wanted to build a society where they could practice their beliefs free from governmental obstruction. Therefore, when the framers of the Constitution began drafting the very governing document that would give their government its power and authority, these men did not forget to honor the struggle that gave birth to their nation. The right to freely exercise your religion is the most sacred right of all the American amendments, and this is why it is the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Noble Drew Ali stated that it would be my young Moors who would come in seeing with their eyes wide open, and for those with eyes to see, we can see the cryptogram that Noble Drew Ali left us. As I previously stated, this organization was founded in Newark, New Jersey in 1913. The word Newark is code for New Ark, N-E-W-A-R-K. The structure of the MSCFA will be the New Ark. It will provide our people shelter and passage. You see, by structuring his organization as a religious institution, the U.S. government would have to take a hands-off policy. They could not lawfully do anything to interfere with Noble Drew Ali or his followers, as long as they proclaimed that everything they were doing was done to give praise to God. Noble Drew Ali founded this organization to uplift fallen humanity. And who had fallen more than the black man in America? Noble Drew Ali also made economic independence a priority for the membership. He instructed his followers to put their property in his name, meaning in the name of the nonprofit organization. By doing this, all of their property will remain tax exempt from federal, state, and local property taxes. If we didn't have to pay Uncle Sam, then we could accumulate more wealth. And through our economic power, we could buy more political influence both domestically and internationally. In the oral statements, it states that in 1928, Noble Drew Ali attended a Pan-American conference in Havana, Cuba, where he was recognized as a dignitary and representative for blacks living in America under the nationality of Moorish Americans. After the Secretary of State for the United States heard Noble Drew Ali's interpreter address the international body in Spanish, it is reported that Secretary Hughes said, "That is a very dangerous man." What this story relays to us is that Noble Drew Ali was instructing us on how we must use the law to protect us from this racist U.S. government. Any black movement that is lawfully recognized as a religion or God-centered culture, you are in a position to follow Noble Drew Ali's blueprint and lead our people to both earthly and divine salvation. The First Amendment offers you protection from government interference. The First Amendment offers you the privilege of clergy, meaning as a divine minister or administrator in the ministry book, you cannot be called to testify against anyone if the things they tell you are confessions, or they assume their words will be held in confidence between you and God. And more importantly, as an organization incorporated as a religious organization, any property or monies you put in this organization's name is tax exempt. That's the organization structure of the MSCFA. Offers the black man in America the best method for building a nation within his nation. And because other governments recognize freedom of religion as being a human right, your organization can establish international relations with nations that may have just as many grievances with this white man's government as we do. And it's very likely that these nations may find it mutually beneficial to offer our independent black nation any assistance we request. But this will become more clear next week when I give my bill to the Nation of Islam. I myself am a member of the Nation of Gods and Earth, but I give hail and high honor to Noble Drew Ali. The years I spent inside his temple have taught me a lot, and I'm eternally grateful. But it is a new era time now, and me and my brother King Quent are inviting all Moors to join the Mojo Nation. And any black person interested in liberating our people from white domination should join. We are not telling anyone that they have to disassociate themselves with any group they may be a part of. We will even allow the group to join if their goals align with ours. We are not here to compete with anyone but the white race. Yes, we look forward to making our people economically and politically strong enough to challenge white domination. And we seek to become socially influential enough that black people will stop loving the white race but hating themselves. When this occurs, we will no longer imitate the white man in word, action, and deeds. Instead, we will follow the example set by our black ancestors. And we will take pride in our blackness unapologetically. This is my time for this evening, and I thank you for joining us. If you want to learn more about Emoji Nation, you can go to www.emojination.com to learn more about Lord Serious. You can go to www.LordSeriousSpeaks.com, or you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook under Lord Serious Speaks as well. Take care of yourselves and each other, and it's been a divine pleasure.
I think I lost my mind. Them crackers took my mind. I think I lost my mind. Now I don't wanna find it. I think I lost my mind. Them crackers took my mind. Don't let them take your mind.
I think I lost my mind, but I don't wanna find it, and I won't tell no lies. My every word be binded, put my name on the line, right by that X and sign it on. I self-floor and master, me I am God and guidance.
I've been on my grind,
Searching outside of myself for the things that I want.
like them dollar signs.
A bitch with ass, a fat you can see from the front.
And a foreign ride.
So I could look right in your eyes when I pull up and stunt. Now I just don't give a fuck. No, that won't give me love. No, that shit can't give me peace. No, it can't give me back marble or freak. No, it can't take all that hate from the streets, or take the hatred outside of police. Put an end to generational beef. It's hard to forgive when niggas get killed. You gotta lay in the bed that you made, and they got some stains on their sheets. My brother's in prison, I pray you released. Once you get out, you burn your receipt. If you catch a charge like a credit card, they taking life as a minimum fee. So we owe a debt to society, but life ain't free. Never been cheap, and they never paid us for slavery. I think these motherfuckers owe me. I think I lost my mind, but I don't wanna find it, and I won't tell no lies. My every word be binded, put my name on the line, right by that X and sign it on. I self-floor and master, me I am God and guidance on. Think I lost my mind, but I don't wanna find it, and I won't tell no lies. My every word be binded, put my name on the line, right by that X and sign it on. I self-floor and master, me I am God and guidance on. My niggas trapped in the trap, I know that you wanna be free. You wanna be free. Keep stacking that drug money, I pray that it become a key to open the door and let an opportunity for you to build up a better community. Enough of the jewelry, all of the foolery, that shit is rented, boy, you are not fooling me. I don't care how much ice you got, you ain't cool as me. If these crackers make you a tool of slave, cause they ain't using me, I defy them beautifully. Start a riot through the street. Fuck the lifestyles of the rich and famous, bitch, I ain't robbing leech. This ain't even about the money, would do this shit for free. Should charge your arm and leg, arm, head, cause that's who I be. And it's deeper than you think, I might need to post a meme. Like Nipsey Hussle was Black Jesus, both died at 33. Whoa.
My mother said, they're gonna get you. I said, but mom, why are they gonna get me? Because you must remember that you live in a society that supports a certain philosophy and a certain system. You being the color that you are, black, and then you're going against the grain, they're gonna get you.
Remember, I ain't had nobody, couldn't call nobody, was a lone body. You don't know the feeling having nobody. Struggling, trying to make a home probably, but I really don't need nobody. I don't see nobody, cause I am the body. I don't trust nobody. 2 middle fingers up, so now it's just fuck everybody. Auntie say she gon' pray for me. I told her auntie need a paid lawyer with a Range Rover, push the ring over. I do the same for you, that's real talk. Die for what I believe in, though go to church and trust in them heathens. Hit for a reason, yo, I'm here for a reason.
Here for a reason, my nigga.
Peace. Welcome back, man. It's For the Culture. It's King Quent. And we talking about Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America. Now, out of the 4 movements that we're going to be discussing this month, Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple are probably the least well known, but no less relevant in our fight for liberation. Despite the waning of the movement, the Moorish Science Temple is important because it was this movement that brought up the question of nationality and stressed the need for us to proclaim our nationality and link ourselves back to the human family in order to be a truly free people, to become truly a self-conscious body of people. Now, although the MSTA was chartered as a religious organization with Drew as their prophet, it was actually far more accomplishing than just religion. The Moorish Science Temple was the prototype for a holistic system of nation building, the only type of nation building I think can actually succeed. And being holistic and Afrocentric, the movement stressed that the spiritual regeneration of man and knowledge of their true self, true nationality, and true divine creed were the only tools by which we could free ourselves from mental slavery and uplift a fallen humanity. Drew taught that the U.S. Constitution and the institution of slavery have reduced us from full men and women into 3/5 of a person. Now, according to his teachings, a full person is made up of body, spirit, soul, nationality, and divine creed. But to Drew, slavery had took our divine creed and nationality from us. And thus, these are what we must reclaim and research. If we do not assert some ties to humanity and to the land, then we will simply exist in a state of property as American slaves, no matter what the 13th Amendment or any other document might say. Drew's movement was also important because it sought to answer the question, how do you free the minds of men? Noble Drew Ali said our slavery was now mental. And so he brought to us the system of personal self-transformation that he called Islamism. This wasn't the typical Orthodox Islam being practiced in countries like Arabia, but it had similar ties. Drew understood that our people were coming from Christianity, from a slave master's version of Christianity. And so to these people, he brought the science that man is Allah and that all the prophets were Asiatic or dark-skinned. Islamism traced itself back to the ancient Canaanite and Kemetic systems, which taught that the apotheosis of man would be achieved once he liberated himself from his bodily fetters or chains, allowing him to attain a godlike state in his present life. And that this could only be accomplished by raising the mind from human knowledge to infinite wisdom. Drew stressed that this would be the key to turning us into a clean and pure nation of people. Drew sought to instill in us that it was really us that was blocking our path for freedom. He knew that we were legally free on paper, but we still had the minds of slaves. And so an understanding that man was God and that God was a black man and that Jesus and Muhammad and all these were men like us was essential into freeing our minds to accept our true power. But Drew, as many of our leaders, was a product of his era, the Jim Crow era. And so he didn't really ask people to concern themselves with how white folks felt, but rather to focus on us to clean and purify ourselves and get back in touch with our God, our culture, and our history so that we can start to think and do for self, which is essential to any platform of true nation building. But his arguments were different from the moral suasion arguments of the integrationists, who really just said that our people basically should behave and appeal to the white moral compass to prove that we were worthy of being treated as equals. Rather than that, Drew said, lace up your own bootstraps. He said it takes finance to raise a nation. And so he encouraged Moors to be hardworking and industrious. And the Moorish Science Temple has bought land and owns businesses throughout the country. Drew taught that the Moors were part and parcel of the government, and therefore he encouraged civic involvement. Drew taught that the ancient Moabites were the descendants of Kemet, and these ancient Moabites, or Moors, will build an empire that extended throughout the entire northwest and southwest coast of Africa, the regions that most of our ancestors come from. Moorish Americans are descendants of these ancient Moabites who inhabited these regions, and the Moorish Empire, with this full makeup of kingdoms, nations, countries, tribes, and families, was in full effect during the entire African slave trade up until around 1908. And it was from this empire that all African nationals who were abducted, enslaved, and transported to Americas and other islands come from. So this is the nationality that we must claim. Once again, this was very important to assert, especially at his time, because at that time, most of us were calling ourselves either Negroes, blacks, or colored. But this is not actually recognized in a national sense. Like, there is no Negro, black, or colored nation. These aren't people related to the human family. They only connect us with labels given to property. See, Drew was considered as a prophet amongst his people. He gave a lot of warnings and a lot of statements to prepare us for the era we live in now. For instance, he warned that if Moors were not careful, then their own brother will re-enslave them. This is important for us today because we cannot forget that just because you have black skin does not mean you have black interests. We cannot fall for leadership that is less than what we need to achieve our liberty in this day and age. Yes, we are all for the uniting of our people, but we refuse to be continually fooled and infiltrated by agents simply because they look similar to us. We've come to a point now where we are more fresher than ever. And I'm not speaking of just the diversity that we have amongst our own, but in the sense of we really don't see ourselves as one people. Even if you are integrationist, I believe you should support the development of a strong nation for your people because that nation strengthens and protects your position within America. So you can move up through the ranks and obtain positions of power and influence and live your life however you want to. Just do so while remembering that you are part of one people, one nation of people. And this nation is the key to your freedom. We're going to give y'all a break, let you think about some of the things that were said, listen to some music, and when we come back, we're going to have more for the culture. King Quent. Peace.
The streets screaming murder. I think they all trying to murder me. I heard the streets screaming murder. I think they all trying to murder me. But I won't break and I won't fold. On my crown, nigga, I'm gon' roll. Fuck my foes, never sell my soul. I hold it down 2 feet 10 toes until they murder me. I heard the streets screaming murder. Probably die for all of the shit that I'ma say. Take a shot right to my face inside my drop like JFK. Or the crooked CIA gon' have somebody cut my brakes. Or they probably infiltrate and have me killed by my own race. Yup, this can be my fate. Yup, these are just the stakes. Well, we all got our date. I just embrace what I can't escape. Yup, right around the corner. Them corners never safe. Don't matter which way you turn, that's why I never turn away. In this world so full of hate, better keep one on your waist. Cause if it ain't the police, it's greed, envy, jealousy. My niggas never been free. Who link and emancipate? See them targeting my race. Out in Charlotte with no brakes. Motherfucker P.O. I'm riding strapped every day. I know these crackers scared. See them loading up their K's. Training for a war. ARs by the gate. Cause in America, KKK ain't no nigga ever safe. I heard the streets screaming murder. I think they all trying to murder me. I heard the streets screaming murder. I think they all trying to murder me. But I won't break and I won't fold. On my crown, nigga, I'm gon' roll. Fuck my foes, never sell my soul. I hold it down 2 feet 10 toes until they murder me. I heard the streets screaming murder. I probably died cause he hating for no reason. Or died cause he lied, said I committed treason. Died cause of pride and some petty disagreement. Died cause this guy told him I'm a disbeliever. Died cause he was a bitch nigga and I teased him. Died when we ride and fame was trying to get even. Die for this truth in the way that I can speak it. Die cause they know they power lie and keep it secrets. Die cause the shit they feed us should have been a vegan. Die cause instead of moving out, I played defense. Die from a straight shot and I stopped breathing. Die cause I'm trying to change how my niggas thinking. Die cause somebody's girlfriend started winking. But die cause my dog flawed and I couldn't peep. I heard the streets screaming murder. I think they all trying to murder me. I heard the streets screaming murder. I think they all trying to murder me. But I won't break and I won't fold. On my crown, nigga, I'm gon' roll. Fuck my foes, never sell my soul. I hold it down 2 feet 10 toes until they murder me. I heard the streets screaming murder.
I don't in any way encourage black people to go out and initiate acts of aggression indiscriminately against whites. But I do believe that the black man in the United States and any human being, anywhere, is well within his right to do whatever is necessary, by any means necessary, to protect his life and property, especially in a country where the federal government itself has proven that it is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives and property of those human beings.
Hi, y'all. We back. It's King Quent for the culture. And like I was saying, man, we need to be united as a people. Whether you're an integrationist or nationalist, you should see the necessity of unity. You know, no matter what you do, even if you don't want to be on the front line, that's fine. If nothing else, donate some money to the cause. You know, just know yourself. Teach your children the truth of their heritage. As a matter of fact, don't integrate at all. Infiltrate. That's the word. We're not integrating, we infiltrating. We must recognize that it's time to hold each other accountable so that we can be dependable. I think that's what Drew was stressing when he was saying that your own brother might re-enslave you. If you don't hold your brother accountable, then you can't depend on him to really be for your interests. But despite the Moore Science Temple being essentially a religious program of self-help, upliftment, and civic duty, their movement has still been fractured over these years. And what we should take from this is, in this day and age, we have to build up our people so that anybody can step up and take the helm, if necessary, without the petty infighting and egotistical power trips that tend to happen in times of transition. This is what has led to there being 3 different active factions of Moors under 3 different leaderships. Until we gain the ability to prepare for our successors and to see beyond our lifetime, those that oppose us will continue to just aim for our leaders, removing them through incarceration, deportation, exile, assassination, or whatever other method they could think of, knowing that when you cut the head off, the body gonna fall. So we had to prepare for this, and we prepare for this through the proper training of our youth by looking forward to the future. See, although Umoja Nation is not a religious organization, we are a holistic organization, and so we support the philosophical or spiritual teachings of any group that promotes a black man as God concept, or that derive their teachings or revelations from original people. Our aim is to unite different tribes, families, organizations, businesses, and nations, real or imagined, into a collective body that can work together to uplift us all to follow humanity. This is always the goal, and that is the one thing that we cannot forget. The world goes where we go. As our people have declined in power and influence, the more the world has fallen victim to the effects of white supremacy. If you read the book of Psalms, verse 6 of 82, verse 6 of chapter 82, it says, "Rise, O God, and judge the earth, for you shall inherit all nations." We are those gods that are being called to rise. And this is our calling, to uplift fallen humanity. But to do so, we must first pick ourselves up by our bootstraps and get to work. This is what Drew stressed, and this is why I believe his movement was so important. The time is always now. All right, man. That's the show. I hope y'all enjoyed yourselves. I hope you learned something that you can take with you. And if you did, you go out there and share with somebody else. Each one teach one is the way that we can reach one. One people with one aim and one agenda. Make sure y'all follow us on Facebook, Instagram, at UmojNation. You can send us an email, UmojNationRadio@gmail.com, subject line for the culture. And y'all know we want to hear from you, so hit us with your feedback, your ideas, because we're always open to it. Once again, follow Lord Serious at LordSeriousSpeakers.com. And don't forget to check out my book, 100% Real, Two Sides of the Same Coin, volumes 1 and 2, now available on Amazon, under my pen name, Q Jones III. I appreciate y'all giving us y'all ear. We'll catch y'all next week, same time, Friday, Talking Streetz Entertainment. Peace.
On my back, y'all can do me like Ricky. They wanna hear about Prada, Gucci, and Fendi, but my soul's done grew. Them shoes don't quite fit me. I ain't dissing Chuck Lorre, but if I had wrote the story, Lil in the big banging, cause he never saw a penny. It is not no theory, the conspiracy is real. These crackers plotting on to kill, to prevent the rise of those that's qualified to heal and unify. Every tribe think it's time we build. They be talking about it. Can't swim, but I pool this money, bet you dive on in. I create the wave, Black Poseidon, and give birth to gods. Black is Titan, and I know that's so frightening to those with white skin. I know you wanna separate us like a hyphen, but my friends, if you would see what I say, it's like we Skyping. These crackers fed as pigs and tripe, that shit is trifling. Say you are what you eat, now we all in the pen, undeveloped men, baby boy, calling home a crib, calling home a counterfeit. Socrates was a bitch, Aristotle plagiarist, who the they playing with? No, I probably shouldn't say that. Money, cars, and clothes, I'm more safer with. Yeah, but I ain't come to be your favorite. Slave minded, talking chains and whips, basic self-hatred statements. But your ego trips and other shit is coming out my brother lips. But don't you call that shit no diss, cause them my brothers, I still love them. You up, you with them. Melody is melanin, but shout out to Eminem, cause if you do not fight this system, then you cool with how it is. And that mean you racist, no matter shade or tint. I'm not anti-white, I'm anti-devil schmitz. You better use your common sense. See, they cover up your history like it do not exist. Cause once we've been convinced of our own inferiority, it naturally prevents us to rise up again.
Although COINTELPRO began its operational life by targeting first the Communist Party, then the Socialist Workers' Party, and other such time-honored targets, it rapidly shifted emphasis with the rise of the civil rights movement during the early 1960s. Shortly, we find Hoover returning to his Marcus Garvey theme, stipulating in an internal memorandum circulated to 23 field offices that a primary objective of COINTELPRO should be to, quote, prevent the rise of a black messiah, end quote. And he meant that in terms, as he spelled out, as being any individual capable of galvanizing the African-American population, politically. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Stokely Carmichael are named as individuals who might potentially have fulfilled this role. Agents were instructed to devise, again I'm quoting, imaginative, hard-hitting programs to neutralize these individuals and others like them. Malcolm X was assassinated soon thereafter, ostensibly as part of a factional dispute within the black Islamic community. A January 22nd, 1969 FBI memorandum, however, essentially takes credit for this outcome and goes on to suggest comparable operations be directed against other black nationalists. Dr. King was assassinated next under circumstances involving FBI complicity, at least to the extent of covering up by whom and how and why he was killed. And that's conclusion, not of a radical author or researcher out here, but of a congressional committee. At about the same time, Carmichael was driven into exile, the victim of an FBI bad jacket, which is a particular counterintelligence technique to make someone who's a bona fide activist appear to be something else, like an infiltrator. They usually use infiltrators to put bad jackets on people. So you have this interesting situation within movements, within organizations, where infiltrators are casting the real activists as being infiltrators and bringing about their expulsion or their political neutralization. Well, this is what was done to Stokely. He was portrayed as a CIA operative through the planning of a goldenrod copy of a dummied-up informant report to that agency. And as a little interesting interagency dynamic that goes on. Is the CIA personnel always want to make these guys look to be FBI infiltrators, and the FBI returns the favor by making them out to be CIA plants, Okay, this is followed up by a series of anonymous telephone calls to his mother warning her that he was to be executed as a traitor by a number of his erstwhile political colleagues. Okay. That's the big three that were named as being a potential Black Messiah. 2 dead and 1 driven completely out of the country. Meanwhile, the Bureau was directly involved in a much wider pattern of repression of the civil rights movement. For instance, one of its contract employees, Gary Rowe, this is just one guy now, assisted in the planning of and actually participated in the axe-handle beatings of freedom riders during 1962 and 63, was accused on fairly good evidence, was never convicted of it, but was accused of personally murdering an Afro-American demonstrator in 1963, is known to have helped plan the 1963 16th Street Baptist Church bombing in Birmingham, resulting in the deaths of 4 black children, and was in the Ku Klux Klan vehicle from which the bullets were fired, which killed organizer Viola Riuzzo in 1965, and the guy was taken to trial by the state of Mississippi several years later and accused of having actually fired a bullet. Now, the whole time this is going on and he's doing these things, he's working for the FBI. He's on the payroll. According to FBI COINTELPRO chief William Sullivan, he was assistant director of the Bureau at the time, in his autobiographical account, the Bureau, his agents, this is Sullivan's agents, had achieved complete control over the Mississippi Ku Klux Klan chapter by early 1964. More than 300 bombings and 10 murders were attributed to that chapter in the 2 years following. This is when the assistant director in charge in the FBI is saying he and his guys have control of the Klan. So now who's responsible?